Good morning, children. This morning I want to start us off with a game that you may have played and that you can share with the people in your household. This game is called Two Truths and a Lie. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 3 facts with you. And 2 of them are going to be true, and 1 of them is going to be a lie. And you have to guess which 2 are true and which 1 is a lie. You ready? Okay, the first fact is that I grew up with a dachshund, which is the same kind of dog that I have now. Some of you have met Woodrow and know what he looks like. So I grew up with a dachshund, the same kind of dog I have now. The second fact, the second thing I want to share with you is that Coca-Cola is my absolute favorite beverage. And the third thing is that water sports like swimming and rowing are my absolute favorite. So there's the dachshund, Coca-Cola, and water sports. Which one do you think is the lie? I'll tell you, it's the Coca-Cola. That is not my favorite beverage. That is a lie. Actually, I've never had a Coca-Cola. It is one of the stranger things about me. I never had one as a child, so then I never wanted to have one when I got older. And so that is the lie among those 3 things that I shared with you this morning. You can play that game with other people in your household as well. I bring that game up this morning because in the lesson we're going to hear from the Gospel of Luke, there's some surprising things that the characters in the story will learn about one another. So you'll hear it as Jesus talks about these various characters. In the days when Jesus was alive on earth, just like in our world today, there were groups of people that were enemies, groups that refused to interact with each other because they disliked one another so much. Most Jews did not like Samaritans and were afraid of them because they heard about what Samaritans had done to their ancestors. So in this story, we get to discover how Jesus challenged people that he spent time with to think differently about their enemies, and to think more broadly about what they had in common, not just what made them different. So let's listen to the story. I think you'll catch on, and this may be a story that many of you have heard. It's from the 10th chapter of Luke's Gospel. A man who knew a whole lot about religious laws came to Jesus with a question. He said, "Teacher, how do I really, truly live with God?" And Jesus asked him, "Well, what does God's law say? How do you understand it?" The man answered him, "It says to love God completely, with heart and soul and strength and mind, and to love your neighbor like yourself." And Jesus said to him, "That's it. Do that, and you'll have the life that you're asking about." Still wondering, the man asked, "But who exactly is my neighbor?" And in response, Jesus told this story. A man was walking down the road that led from Jerusalem to Jericho when robbers attacked, took his clothes, beat him up, left him lying there, suffering and alone. A priest happened to walk by, but as he came near, he saw the hurt man, so he crossed to the other side of the road. After him, a Levite, another religious man, did the same thing, crossed to the other side of the road. But then a Samaritan came, and when he saw the injured man, he felt compassion for him. He came to the man and treated his wounds and bandaged them. He put the man on his own animal and brought him to an inn where he could be safe and rest while he healed. Then the Samaritan took care of the injured man. The next day, the Samaritan found the innkeeper, paid his bill, and said, "Take care of the man. When I come back, I'll pay you whatever more it costs." Then Jesus asked, "Who became a neighbor to the man who was attacked?" And the man with the question said, "The one who had compassion for him." And Jesus said, "Go, do that." Oh, I love the story. I love the story because it forces us to think about who our neighbors are. I'm wondering what neighbor means to you. Who do you think of when the word neighbor comes along? Is it just the people who live next door to you? Is it anyone who lives on your street? Is it anyone who lives in Arlington? How do you think about who your neighbors are? I wonder also what the Samaritan was thinking when he decided to help this man in need. Because as we learned, Samaritans and Jews didn't normally get along at that time. So what do you think was going through his mind when he decided to help the man who was injured? And then to take it a step further, I wonder how you think the people hearing this story from Jesus felt, right? How did they feel knowing that Samaritans and Jews typically did not get along? And Jesus was telling this story about the Samaritan being really generous and doing the right thing. How do you think they would have felt if you were in their shoes receiving this story from Jesus? I wonder who you might surprise this week with your willingness to help them. Who would not expect you to be a neighbor to them? Children, I think one of the things about compassion, which we've been talking about for several weeks now, one of the things I want to remind you of is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't always have to look like doing something heroic, like helping someone who's injured on the side of the street. Compassion might also just involve curiosity and an attention to who someone else is, to getting to know that person. I don't know about you, but one of my least favorite times in the school day was always lunchtime. It made me nervous because sometimes my friends would sit with other kids that I didn't know. Sometimes I wasn't sure where I was invited to sit, or sometimes I just got my feelings hurt if I wasn't included with a group of friends who were doing something. But I wonder what it would have been like for instead of being focused on how people were treating me, if I were focused on how I was treating other people. I wonder what it would have been like to do kind of a lunchroom tour, an around the world tour in the lunchroom, and try to get to know someone different, either every day or once a week, to introduce myself and say, "My name's Beth. Tell me about who you are. Tell me what you love to do when you're playing. Tell me about a favorite book you've read." What if compassion looks like sharing genuine curiosity about those who are around us? I wonder if you can think about sharing that kind of generous curiosity with people at your summer camp or at your school or in your neighborhood, just by making an effort to get to know them. If we all did that, there would be a lot fewer people that we didn't know. There would be a lot fewer people that we could consider enemies, because I imagine we would find that we have more in common than we realize. So that is my challenge for you today, children, as you think about how to live into this call for compassion. Let us end with a prayer today. Dear God, thank you for teaching us about the Samaritan in our story who helped someone he was supposed to see as an enemy. Help us to be kind to those we have a hard time getting along with in our lives, and give us compassionate hearts and tenderness for others we have fought with, so grudges don't get in the way of offering a helping hand to someone who needs us. Amen.